What's good, everybody? Welcome in to the Early Edge in your Week 15 NFL Mega Preview. I, of course, am the coach, and we are powered, as always, by the almighty SportsLine, the best value in all sports betting, and it's not close. If you're brand new to the brand, on this show, we break down every single game in Week 15. There are no buys. Every team is back in action, and they will go strong to the end of the season. 4 weeks left. Who's going to make the playoffs? Who's going to get snubbed? Who's going to play their way out? We'll discuss it all right here and right now. As always, we are brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook and Casino. So how about we bring in the stars of the show? Can we do that? Can we do that? Of course we can. I have three of the absolute very best here every single Tuesday. First and foremost, live from Nashville, Tennessee, the Pit House level. M Squared, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Coach R.J. Larry. Great to see you guys. You know, this is one of my favorite shows. Definitely the most important show of the week. A lot of intriguing matchups, really critical point of the season. So fired up to hear what these guys have to say on a couple of these games.
And I am fired up right alongside you. Now, this man's been here since day freaking one. He's everything to the NFL, to us at SportsLine. He is the maestro, Larry Hartstein. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, guys. Great to be here. And also a lot of QB news to get to. A lot of guys, their status going to be determined today, later on this week. Some coaches are going to a 2 QB system like you see in college.
I saw that in Houston last week. I thought every time I turned back to the game, I was like, what's going on? Until I figured out what they were trying to do. Leave Davis Mills in, please. Just leave Davis Mills in. And finally, you heard the big news break this morning that props are now available or will be at SportsLine. The man who runs the NFL for us, R.J. White, educate us. How cool is this?
It's awesome. The tech team's been working hard behind the scenes. They did not expect it to happen until late in the playoffs, maybe even the Super Bowl, but they were able to get it going for Week 15. So we have 4 full weeks of that coming to the site, and then the playoffs, obviously. So a lot of good props to attack with some of your favorites. Alex, prop stars, Sia Najad. Just all those kind of guys are going to be adding props. I have my own prop I put up on the site. It's not quite live for everyone yet. You should be able to see my prop, but we're holding off on everyone else till everything is 100% behind the scenes. So we expect that's going to happen this week, probably tomorrow, maybe Thursday, and then you should get all the props from there on out from all the guys you love. So I'm very excited to have that there, and we're going to have some awesome records to tout on the site, with Alex and Sia picking these games.
Man, they have been killing it. I talked to both of those guys this morning, and they are fired up. Sia is like 13-1 or 14-1 in his last 2 weeks. So like you said, those two guys, Uncle Dave, all you guys, this is a big deal for us, a really big deal. And hopefully all you at home really enjoy it. As RJ just said, his first prop is in the first game that we're talking about. So, gentlemen, let's jump right in. Thursday Night Football. This is a very, very important game for both teams. Seahawks at home, but the 49ers, the Fighting Brock Purdy's, are coming to town. And San Francisco literally laid the wood to Tom Brady and the Bucs. They looked phenomenal, 35-7. So, RJ, let's start with you. You got a prop in this game. What else do you like?
Got a prop in this game. Won't give it out. You'll have to go to the site and check it out. We're touting the props being on the site. So I did see the line moved up a little bit since I put it out. I don't think I did that. I think it's just everybody's kind of liking it. I did talk to Alex today, and he said he loved it as well. So if you need any other reason to play it, that's a good one for you. But in this game, I like Seattle plus 3.5. Seattle's coming off a bad loss, but they scored 24-plus points in 6 of their last 7 games. Their offense has been playing well. San Francisco has won by 13-plus in 4 straight, and I think that's likely inflated the value with their backup quarterback, who's now banged up, now going on the road for the first time and having to play in an uncomfortable environment there after he dominated that Tampa in that win. So that is a drawback for them. The Seattle defense may be so awful it doesn't matter, but without Deebo Samuel on the other side too, I just think this offense is probably going to struggle in this game, even in a good matchup. It's also a kitchen sink game for Seattle. If they want to try to win the division, they need to get this win here and stay in the race. So I think Geno keeps this one close. At worst, it's a 3-point loss for Seattle. So love getting the 3.5 with the Seahawks.
Yeah, the 49ers announced yesterday that they're hopeful that Deebo could be back for the playoffs. But again, that knee injury looked nasty, just all the way back. So we'll see what they are like without him. But Maestro, let me come to you, because it's very easy to become a prisoner of the moment. And Brock Purdy beating Tom Brady, a lot of people are saying it feels like 21 years ago, that maybe he'll be the next guy. He looks the part. Are we buying into Brock Purdy too much?
Potentially, when you go on the road, this is your first road spot. It's a tough place to play. And, I love the Seahawks because of the spot and everything RJ said. And I see Josh Nagel on the site also likes the Seahawks. The 49ers place in the market couldn't be any higher. But then you realize Seattle's given up 838 rushing yards in the last 4 games. That does not bode well against a team that runs the ball. I know Debo won't be there, and that takes away one element of the running game, but 838, and they basically said, Pete Carroll said, I don't have any answers. We really don't have the personnel. These guys have just got to play better, tackle better, but they really don't have the personnel up front, and it's being exposed. It's not like there's injured guys coming back this week. You hope it's a short week. It's a hostile environment. Maybe he makes a turnover early, and they don't get in the situation where the team is running it down their throats all day like Carolina did. But that's what keeps me off this game.
And Mikey, when we look at it, we talk, you and I, all the time about how much a quarterback means as far as line movement is concerned. But in this instance, now that he's had a full half game, then a start under his belt, how much do you think the line is being manipulated by the fact that Brock Purdy is a starter for San Francisco?
I think the line difference between, say, Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy at this point is probably 3 points, maybe 3.5 at most. Certainly not 5, 6, 7 like it is for a lot of starting quarterbacks. The quarterback in that offense is not asked to do a lot. It's not asked to do a lot to go win football games typically. So I don't think it makes a massive deal. I think the game is priced pretty appropriately here. I have a slightest of leans towards Seattle on the short week, not having seen Purdy on the road. My interest in the game personally is looking at the under at 43.5 or 44 if you can get it. Personally, I think that the San Francisco defense is elite. I think that the Seahawks can slow them down just enough on the short week for Purdy in this situation. I think the interest will still be pounding the rock with Christian McCaffrey. I think it's a tight, competitive, low-scoring game. 22 points probably gets the win in this one, but almost definitely gets the win in this one. So I like the under in the game if I had to play anything at this point.
7 points against the Bucs, 17 points against the Dolphins the week previous. They are trending in the right direction and playing great football. And those are our Thursday Night Football takes by all three of my cappers, brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook and Casino. All right, gentlemen, let's jump into our Sunday slate. And last week, Sienna John said on one of our shows, he goes, the Vikings are a fraud. And then they went out and got beaten down by the Detroit Lions. However, the good news for the Vikings is they had a 5-game lead in their division. So now at 10-3, Detroit 6-7 is the next closest. So the Vikings are clear to make the playoffs, we think, unless a monumental collapse. They're hosting the Colts, who have really been struggling since Jeff Saturday took over. Vikings laying 4, total 48.5. Meister, let's start with you. Which side would you lean to in this game? We don't have an official play on this yet.
I like the Vikings here. I think it's a good spot for them coming off that performance against Detroit. Detroit is a very good team, and the Vikings put up a ton of yards, and now they come home where they're comfortable against a Colts team that is better against the run than against the pass. I think this is a bounce back spot for the Vikings. And the Colts, the trend line, they beat the Raiders, they're going down and they're going down. They played the Eagles tough. And since then, 2 bad performances. I don't think Jeff Saturday saying he wants the job next year is going to spark them.
It may be a little different than what we were saying. And I said Sunday slate. I meant to say, because I was reading it, Saturday slate. 3 games this week, 1 o'clock, 4:30, and then 8:15. But Mikey, as we come to you, we knew it would not be smooth sailing for Jeff Saturday. But it's all about the Vikings, and can they figure out how to become a team that can either travel and win in the playoffs or just win in the playoffs as a whole? And lately, they haven't been playing like it. Your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this game is interesting here. The Vikings, they always seem to find themselves in competitive games, even games that haven't been competitive until they let a team back in it. It's typically what they do. My look in the game, though, I like the under here at 48.5. I think this number should be closer to 45, 46.5. Look, both teams can have some success running the football here, in my opinion. I don't think the Colts, while this Minnesota team lets teams get into shootouts. I'm not confident the Colts offense can score enough points to really put it in that situation. So my best look on this game, I lean towards the Vikings on it, but I like the under here. I think the number is just a little bit too high. I've seen so many inefficiencies on the offensive side from the Colts that all it's going to take to keep this one under is 2 to 3 drives that stall that we've seen quite a bit with this team. So I'm going to go under 48.5 here.
Okay, and from a prop perspective, you're looking at a player this week. Last week, Prop Stars told you on our Prop Spectacular, Justin Jefferson would lead the league in receiving for that particular game. He went over 200 yards. So I encourage you to watch our prop show to really pinpoint, even if you're staying off a game, you can find really good things, good value within the game. Moving on to game number 2 on Saturday. RJ, I'm starting with you. Ravens at the Browns. The Browns laying 2.5. Total 37.5. Now, the Ravens got the job done last week in Pittsburgh by 2 against the Steelers, but they come in as the underdog against Deshaun Watson and the Browns. RJ, you do like the Ravens sort of in this game. Talk to me.
Yeah, 2.5 line, low total. Obviously, got to tease it up. So teasing the Baltimore to 8.5. I think 2.5 is a fair number if Huntley is at quarterback. I don't think it's going to be Lamar. I mean, it sounded like a slight chance that would be him coming out of that game, but I don't think it's going to happen. If Anthony Brown is at quarterback, Browns, I think, should be north of 3, even with Deshaun Watson playing bad. But Baltimore beat Cleveland in week 7 with less than 100 passing yards. So as long as you have a competent quarterback that can run the offense back there, I think they will be fine. And Cleveland's defense is awful against the run. Baltimore's defense is excellent against the run. So it's going to be on Deshaun Watson to win the game with his arm, and he has not been able to do that. I know he was a little bit better against Cincy than he was against Houston, but he has not lived up to expectations at this point. Even if he does get a little bit better in this game, I don't see like the light coming on and him having an amazing game in this game, in this matchup, even though he gets his first home game here with the fired up crowd. So I want to play Baltimore if Huntley is in as expected, even at plus 2.5, but figure it's a field goal game, but you got to tease it up with this total and this number.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson said when it clicks, it's just going to click. It has not clicked through the first 2 games yet. In the chat, Casey says, I love this show. Always look forward to these guys. Guess what, Casey? So do we. We love doing this show. So thank you for hanging out with us. Now, let me come over to you, Mikey, because when we look at the Browns and they've really been struggling, the Ravens are still in the playoff race. It doesn't feel like it because they've had such a long season, but they are. How do the Ravens win this game?
They're going to have a great defensive performance. They're going to have to stop the run, which I think that they can do. But at some point, I think Deshaun Watson's going to figure it out just a little bit. We don't expect him to get worse going forward. We expect him to get a little better. As far as the game goes, though, I need Huntley to at least be healthy. I know he had the concussion concerns, got knocked out of that game. As long as he's cleared, I think that this is going to be a dogfight, and I think they're going to be in it. So I would prefer RJ's look of teasing the 2.5. Pretty strong indicator. This was at 3 for a few minutes, back to 2.5. That's really the only place I can look at this point. Otherwise, I need more information on starting quarterbacks. It's got the live bet potential out there. If you're someone who likes to live bet and wants to take a chance on it, you get this game Baltimore plus 135 to start on the money line, plus 140-ish. That's probably where I would look, knowing that there's still a decent chance that they take an early lead in this game. If they do, I do think you're in a situation where you arbitrage it and have a plus money ticket on both sides throughout it. But as far as pregame, I can't get anywhere other than if you have something else you want to tease it with. The 2.5 is a perfect number for that.
All right. Absolutely perfect advice. We talked about it a lot last night on the show. It's a great way to protect yourself and see how the flow of the game is going. And if there's an early score, you can jump on the other side as well. All right. Game number 3. And Maestro, I'm coming to you on Saturday. It's a big one. And I mean a big one. Dolphins at Bills. And I'm going to talk to all 3 of you. Bills are laying 7.5 because the Dolphins, quite frankly, they go out to the West Coast for 2 weeks and they just look awful against the 49ers and then the Chargers. The total sitting on 42. Maestro, you like the Bills in this game? Sort of. What do you like?
I'm throwing the Bills into a 3-way money line parlay with the Eagles to take care of the horrific Bears and their non-existent defense, and the Bengals to win in Tampa Bay. I'm wrapping all of those 3 up together for plus 138. And the Bills, I don't want to play them at over a touchdown, but this Miami defense has been on the field now. I think it's over 150 plays the last 2 weeks. They get home early in the morning after that game against the Chargers, and now they have a short week, have to travel to the cold. They are, according to Clev TA, I believe they have lost 6 straight games when the weather is below a certain temperature, which it definitely will be. I mean, this is just the worst possible spot in the world for the Dolphins. If this were less than a touchdown, I would be eagerly laying the points.
I'm looking at the schedule here, and Mikey, I'm coming to you, and then RJ. And who did they piss off to have those 3 games in a row on the road? Huh, Maestro?
Well, there are a few teams that got 3-game road trips, but this looks like the worst.
Absolutely the worst. Absolutely the worst. Although Mike McDaniels did say that they got closer. They certainly didn't get better, Mikey, but you cast the same bet that Maestro just started last week, and you included the Bills on the money line. Do you like them again?
Yeah, I love them on the money line again. I think it's a great spot for the Buffalo Bills, so I will be including them in a money line parlay a little later in the week as well. Will be interesting to see the line movement. Definitely a tough spot for them in terms of the weather. You'll see all sorts of reports. They had heaters on the sidelines in 55 degrees in the indoor game, so it'll be very, very interesting to see how this one shakes out there. What I'm mostly interested in doing, I'm looking to fade the Dolphins to make the playoffs. I'd like to bet them to miss the playoffs, depending on what number you could find out there right now. I think it's a very difficult spot for them. I believe since week 11 in terms of completion percentage. So we look at expected data and the expected completions based on the passes thrown. Tua's been the worst quarterback in the NFL since week 11 in terms of his expected rates. I don't think he's healthy personally. And I think Tyreek Hill isn't fully healthy either at this point. I think they have a really difficult task ahead, especially with the pressure that's put on them if they are to lose this game in Buffalo. They've still got to visit New England in January 1st or whatever day it is. Likely going to be cold, likely going to maybe be snow out there as well. We know what that pass rush for New England looks like right now. So for me, it's a lot about fading the Dolphins, but not just today. I want to bet them right now to miss the playoffs.
I tell you what, how quickly things change, right? And RJ, we know the Bills are your team. Nobody knows the Bills better than you. But if you would have told me 3 weeks ago that this game, which at that time was a battle of 2 first-place teams, would be one team just struggling to stay relevant in the playoffs, as Mikey just said, or your Bills that even though they're 10-3, they have not looked like the Bills from early in the season. Do you think this is a turnaround game for them?
It's possible. I think they win the game. I do like it as a teaser. It was in my teaser for this show until the Ravens line came down to 2.5, and I wanted to throw them in instead. So I would tease them. I don't like laying the 7.5 though, with an offense that we know is one of the best in the league in terms of passing when they're on their game. But Tua didn't look healthy last week. Chargers defense was missing key guys and has been awful. I don't know what the game plan was. They're not running the ball with Tua not being healthy from Miami, but they decided to do what they did and just could not compete in that game. Miami's offense is better in yards per play, but Buffalo's way better on third down, where Miami's defense struggles. So I think Buffalo can extend drives, score some touchdowns here in this game. Their defense coming off 2 strong games. They do have a secondary to limit the Miami offense with it being banged up. I adjusted Miami way down with the health issues on offense. I had them as a plus 5.5 team going into last week, thinking it was more about the San Francisco matchup for them and didn't want to downgrade them. Now I've adjusted them down pretty fair amount, and I think 7.5 is a pretty fair line, but a terrible spot for them. So I really want to back them, like Larry was talking about. I think they're just too good on their offense to lay a ton of points against them. So catching 7.5 just feels like the back door is going to be wide open here. So I would tease it if anything.
Yeah, the back door was certainly open for them last week. I was talking to the missus and explaining things to her, and I said, this isn't a good spot for them. She goes, why? It's 20-9. They're covering. I said, and outran the field goal kicker with like a minute to go to cut it to 8. Maestro, go.
Yeah, it's also a revenge spot for the Bills, who arguably outplayed Miami but lost the game there. And the stat I was trying to reference, 6 straight times when the temperature is under 35 and it's going to be 23 on Saturday, the Dolphins have lost straight up 5 of those by double digits.
And this would fit right into that, because anybody who watched them play last week, they are not good. And I think Mikey's right. I think Tua's hurt, and I think Tyreek is hurt. He could get no separation, really. Even the touchdown, they just got their feet tangled up. He wasn't beating him. All right, those are the 3 Saturday games. Let's now move on to Sunday. And RJ, I'm starting with you. Falcons and the Saints. Saints are laying 4, total 43, and we're going to see Desmond Ridder for the first time as a starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. How big of a deal do you think that's going to be?
I love these spots for these backup quarterbacks that come in, these rookie quarterbacks that come in and then start, because typically when quarterback changes happen, you have to downgrade the offense. And you say the backup's playing, the starter got hurt. You've seen these Lamar games, that type of thing. In these situations, it might be a neutral effect. It might be a positive effect. Mariota, I know, went on IR with an injury, but the report came out that he was actually yanked for performance. And so if they think that Ritter's the better player to lead this offense, then we just kind of have to trust that. And so I'm not necessarily downgrading the Falcons with Ridder at quarterback, even as a rookie. Mariota hadn't been good in the second half of the season. Atlanta's offense could also have new wrinkles with a new quarterback. You have the bye week to prepare, 2 weeks. Stylistically, you don't just, it's not like going from Joe Flacco to Lamar Jackson or anything, but you can roll out new plays. You have probably a package of plays that he had been working on already in practice that maybe teams haven't seen yet. So it's going to be very hard to prepare, I think, for Atlanta this week for New Orleans. And this defense already has the lowest interception rate in the NFL. So this might be a better opponent for Ridder, even on the road, than it seems. And the Saints offense has looked ugly recently, but they played Baltimore, Pittsburgh, the Rams, San Francisco, and Tampa Bay, with 3 of those on the road. I mean, there's not really many offenses that are going to look good during that stretch. So the spread seemed about right to me here, maybe a little bit lean of Atlanta, but I love the over. So I'm playing Falcons Saints over 43 as a best bet.
I know that talking to Proppy 2 times, Prop Stars, he is very high on Desmond Ridder. And Mikey, when I look at the standings right now, it's not like the Falcons are bringing Ridder in to say, hey, let's see what he can do for us next year. They're just 1 game back of the Bucs for first place in this division. Do you like Ridder? Do you like the Falcons getting 4, perhaps?
I the slightest of leans there. I think the game should be 3.5. It's not one that I'm overly eager to go play. Like RJ, I would look to the over more than anything. I think the likely scenario is if he plays well, it's just simply going to push the game over. Potentially still, they can cover, but my only interest here really is in the over. If you want to take shots and speculate on Ritter's player props overs, in game 1, I think that's okay. But I personally would rather see it before I started investing there. So for me personally, I'm not going to play anything pregame. It'll be one where I think there will be potentially great in-game opportunities if you're willing to, again, be very speculative and make some difficult assumptions early in the game based off what you've seen from him. But I personally am going to take a wait-and-see approach. I need to see 1 or 2 drives at real game speed, not preseason ball, real game speed ball at this time of the year. I want to see a drive or 2 first.
It's way, way different than it is in practice. Quick question from the chat, Mikey, for you. Mark, he says, fantasy question. Start Ridder in his first ever start on the road, or Purdy, who's a little banged up, also on the road on ugly Thursday Night Football. Your thoughts?
I'll take Ridder, as crazy as it sounds. I think Brock Purdy is injured a little bit. Personally, he's on a short week. I think as far as scoring touchdowns, it's pretty likely it's coming from Christian McCaffrey or the defense. So, yeah, I'll take Ridder. I think there's a chance for that game to shoot out a little bit.
All right. Very, very good. Mark, thank you for the question. Yes, Maestro.
This bye has been really good for the Falcons because Elijah Wilkinson, one of their best offensive linemen, is supposed to return. And I think that was part of the reason why they felt confident getting Ridder the start, with the bye, but also with the O-line being back to the way it was. He's been out since week 8.
You definitely want to protect him if you can. You never want to throw a rookie out there to the dogs. You never want to do that. Maestro, thank you for that. All right, moving on to game number 2 on Sunday. I love how all these games are spread out. There's nothing worse than 10 games at 1 o'clock on Sunday. We complain about it all the time, or I do. Maestro, Cowboys laying 4.5 at a suddenly good Jacksonville team, total 47.5. And the Cowboys last week, I saw all the talking heads say, no, this was good for the Cowboys to be tested by I said, this is not college football. This is the NFL. They almost lost to the Houston Texans and now laying 4.5 in Jacksonville, a Jags team that is scoring a lot of points. Your thoughts? Maestro, your thoughts?
Sorry, I thought you were teeing up. I thought you were teeing up Mikey there.
No.
My thoughts are that, the Jaguars, obviously, that's the initial reaction everyone is going to say, and that's where the line has come. It's fallen. The money coming in on Jacksonville, they look so great. The Cowboys look so bad, but that was a bad spot, a sleepy spot for the Cowboys, and I just worry that the Jags can always turn in that turnover-filled performance. Even though Trevor Lawrence is playing great, they are liable to cough it up. And I'm just staying away right now because it's way too tempting to take the Jaguars for me.
But as I look at it, RJ, Jacksonville right now, don't sleep on them. They're just 2 games with 4 games to go out of the playoff spot, and Tennessee is really starting to struggle. Would you like them on the money line this week, perhaps?
I think you could do that. Yeah, I think it's hard to win by more than 3 on the road versus good teams, no matter how good you are. And Jacksonville might be good. I think that's what people are seeing, kind of throw out what you saw in the Detroit game, because aside from that, they played pretty well the last several weeks. And Dallas lost their right tackle in this game last week, so he's not going to play. But Jacksonville is 29th in sack rate. So I don't think Dak's going to see extra pressure because of that injury, at least this week. In Jacksonville, in that game against Tennessee, they scored 4 times off of turnovers. I just don't see Dallas committing that many turnovers here. You can't obviously you can't expect 4 turnovers in a game or to score every time you get a turnover. So, I don't know that they're going to look as good as they did last week, but I still think this could be a competitive game. Lawrence is definitely trending up. We'll see if he can handle this pass rush. The Jacksonville offensive line has played pretty well this year, but they haven't seen a pass rush like this probably the whole season, because this is one of the best in the league. I think the line's slightly too high, even with Dallas being very high in my power ratings at plus 6.5 points before above average. So I think it's a little bit, toward the Jacksonville side, but the market's probably going to push it toward Jacksonville with them being at home. And then you have to question that 4 at 3.5. Do you lay it with the Cowboys?
Yeah, no question about it. Dominic in the chat says this feels like an over. Yes, Maestro.
I just want to say that if the Jags can make up 1 game over the next 3, they play the Titans in week 18, and that would be for the division. They can take the division. All they have to do is make up 1 game. They have the Cowboys, they have the Jets at the Jets, which is tough, and they have the Texans, but the Titans also get to play the Texans.
Texans are going to bite somebody. I don't know who it is, but the Texans are going to bite somebody. Moving on. Lions and Jets. I just voiced a package for CBS Sports just a short while ago on this game. This is so pivotal for both teams. The Lions are on fire. They dominated the Vikings last week. The Jets played hard, losing by 8 in Buffalo. It's a pick'em. It's straight pick'em. Total 44.5. Mikey, I'm coming to you. My gut tells me I've got to lean into the Lions, but this is on the road, and the Jets play great defense. What does your model say?
Yeah, we got a little value on the Jets here. Lions, they're a great team. They've improved a lot. They're definitely at the all-time high of their market value at this point. Jets down a little bit after losing that game. They did manage to cover it a bit, but I think the numbers should be -2, -2.5. It's not going to get there. It's not going to close at 3, anything like that. But I do believe the Jets is the side you want to be on here. We like to back the Lions as dogs. We like to back the Lions at home when they're playing in a dome in controlled environments. We don't necessarily like to play them against tough defenses, outdoors, and elements. I think this is a good spot for a bounce back for the Jets. What we also like with Mike White and just that Jets offense in general, we like to see them against teams that are not great defensively. We talked about how Buffalo is not going to be a great matchup for them defensively. It just isn't a matchup that they can succeed in, really. Totally different story here at this point. So I like the Jets side of this one.
There is no question, Maestro, that what Mikey just said is true. And Mike White, we saw a video of him walking under the tunnel after the game. He's really in a ton of pain with those ribs. But they're saying he probably should get the start this week. If he does, and the way he's been throwing the football, which has been great, do you like the Jets at home?
I do not like the Jets. He is good to go, or he's saying he's good to go. The expectation is he'll be out there. And Jared Goff's home road splits are shocking. 20 TDs and 3 picks at home. On the road, 2 TDs, 4 picks. The passer rating, 107 at home, 81 on the road. And the reason that is not scaring the heck out of me with the Lions is that a lot of those road games, he didn't have all his weapons. I believe he has all his weapons now. I'm not saying he's going to light them up like he did the Vikings. This is a much better defense. It's a much tougher spot, but it's going to be 33 degrees and clear. That is not too intimidating, even though everyone always says he cannot play outside. They did go and handle the Giants, a much worse defense, but it was outside in this same stadium. So right now I'm definitely leaning Lions.
Yeah, the Eagles had no issues with this stadium last week. They scored 48 on this same field last Sunday, so we'll see what the Lions are able to do. Next game, RJ, I'm coming to you. I just said maybe 2 minutes ago, the Texans are going to bite somebody. They're welcoming the Kansas City Chiefs, who are 10-3, but certainly are not playing like a 10-3 team, up 27-0 last week in Denver and nearly lose the game 34-28, not covering that 9-point spread. It's 14, the total at 49. I feel like this is just too big, RJ, for a Chiefs team that is the worst against the spread week by week.
Yeah, you win a game, a divisional game on the road, and you come out of it probably feeling embarrassed on both sides of the ball. I don't know how that happens, but that's what happens when you go up, that big of a margin, and then Patrick Mahomes just starts making dumb turnovers. The defense starts giving up 28 points to a Denver offense that is terrible, that scored 3 touchdowns in November, like in all of November, and then went out and scored 4 touchdowns against the Chiefs defense. But what that's going to do is that's going to focus the Chiefs defense. They say, listen, we thought we were a Super Bowl team, but the team that went out there against the Broncos is not a Super Bowl team by any margin. So we need to play better. We need to lift our game and get focused. And so if this could have been a sleepy spot for them going against the Texans, if they went ahead and continue to dominate that Denver game, won it 42-10, now I think everybody's focused. Last week was just the third Houston game to get to 50 points, and now Damian Pierce is banged up, so the running game isn't going to be there. I think this total is going to stay under with the Chiefs defense focused. After the interception meltdown last week, I don't think Casey throws it at all in the second half if they get up big. So I think this is going to be a game that trends toward the under. Harder to cover a big number if it's going to go under. So I'm going to stay away from the spread. But my lean here is under 49. I might creep up a little bit, though. I think we can get at least 49.5. So I'm waiting to play it.
Okay. Mikey, just like RJ with the Bills, you and I live and die by the Chiefs, but we're also very objective when it comes to our team. And we know they're not playing that great right now. Patrick Mahomes, 3 interceptions against the Broncos. Laying this big of a number, how would you attack it?
Yeah, I'm staying away from it. I like the Chiefs on an alternate line as well. We don't talk about those a lot. We don't like to tease big numbers like this. I played it a little bit in an alternate line parlay down to -5.5 is a number that I'm very comfortable with. Personally, I think the Chiefs roll in this spot. A lot of people are going to be eager to line up and back the Texans after what they did last week. They should have won the game against the Cowboys. Now they're in their home field against the Chiefs here. But I personally think Kansas City runs away with this one. I think we see a dominant performance. We want to talk about Kansas City's collapse last week against Denver. It's a much more difficult place to go in and play a football game on the road in Denver. The game, they had it in hand most of the way there still. Denver's defense is a heck of a lot better than anything the Texans can trot out there. So I think it's a good spot for Kansas City to regain focus. And I'm not backing the Texans. I have zero interest in backing the Texans +14. If I had to play the game, I would lay the 14 with Kansas City before I would take the points with the Texans.
A truer statement has never been said. I have zero interest in backing the Texans. By the way, Big Cheesy 707 agrees with you. The Chiefs are going to smoke them. Come on, guys. Real quick, Maestro, any kind word for Big Cheesy, who paid you on time, did everything that AB did not do?
I cannot go back to that. I took a shot at AB. He must have been having some technical difficulties with his Venmo. But yeah, Big Cheesy, a man of his word, and I look forward to our next showdown.
All right. Very, very political of you, I might add, Maestro. Very political, I might add. All right, the last 3 games we talked about, no official plays from the brand yet. But, of course, stay tuned for the rest of the week. The next game, and I believe that this team is the best team in the NFL right now. I heard Bart Scott on radio yesterday say Jalen Hurts should not be in the MVP conversation. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? He's playing the best on the best team. They're laying 9, gentlemen, on the road in Chicago. The total 48.5. They scored 48 by themselves against the Giants last week. And Maestro, this is another leg in your parlay, but which side are you going with?
Well, I'm going to take the Eagles to win the game. They have the Cowboys on deck. It's a tough spot in between two divisional games, but I just cannot see them losing this game. I'm pairing it with the Bills and the Bengals. And the Bears defense is the worst in football. Since they lost or got rid of Robert Quinn and Roquan Smith, they have been hands down the worst defense in football. I believe it's 5 or 6 straight games with at least 27 allowed. And of course, they have not faced an offense like the Eagles. So I don't care that they had a bye. They didn't bring in any defensive stars. I just think the Eagles will score at will. But I do think the Eagles will give up some. That worries me a little bit about the back door.
All right. And RJ, along those same lines, if Justin Fields does what he's been doing in the past, he'll play really good. They'll score a lot of points. And at the end of the game, they'll figure out a way to lose and not cover. Do you agree?
Well, they did cover some of those games where he was playing well. Now he's banged up, and it's a different animal there. I have this line for my power ratings at Philly minus 11. You mentioned you think the Eagles are the best team. I moved them to number 1 in the power ratings for the first time all year, with the Bills and Chiefs not playing really up to their potential at this point. I think it's still worth playing overs in Chicago games for what Larry's talking about, especially when you're getting a number less than 50. Phillies should score a ton. The question is if a healthier Fields coming out of the bye can backdoor the spread, or can keep up his side of the bargain like you're talking about. And I think he can. Philly's defense, number 1 in yards per play, but 24th in rush yards per play. And I think that speaks more to not just that stretch where Jordan Davis was out for a few weeks. It's really something that they haven't been able to stop the run for a lot of the year. And I think Chicago could have a 200-plus rush yard game just as a team, because we know they're not going to want to throw the ball anyway. So that rush offense keeps me from backing the power rating and laying it with Philly. If the line wants to inflate a little bit, I might play Chicago at 10. But I think the better play is the over, as long as there's no weather concerns later in the week.
Yeah, we'll keep our eye on that. Of course, break it down at noon on Sunday and tell you what the weather is like there. Mikey, from a prop perspective, there's been a few quarterbacks this year that we have cashed a lot of tickets on their rushing total. These two are certainly 2 of them. Is this a good matchup for both to get off on the ground?
I mean, the Chicago side, they're going to try with Justin Fields. As far as Hurts, I think that he obviously can, and it'll be interesting to see if he looks to run more when he sees that on the other sideline a little more, but not something I'm interested in attacking to start the game necessarily. I think that they're still going to hit both receivers. I really want to focus on Devontae Smith, who's coming on really strong right now. He's playing incredibly well, really what we thought he would be all along. He's finally breaking out into that, in my opinion. So that's where I'm going to be focused still, is on Devontae Smith, looking for his breakout to continue. As far as the game goes, I thought the spread should be closer to 10.5. Not super anxious to go lay it with the Eagles at this point. The mission is still get in, get out. So like Larry, this is one of the legs of a parlay that I will be building this week. I like them. Not going to look at laying this big number, though, on the road at this point in the season. It's just about staying healthy there for them.
Yeah, no doubt about it. They're already into the playoffs. They want that number 1 seed, and they want to go. 6 games at 1 o'clock on Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. This is the 6th and final one, and RJ, I'm starting with you. The Steelers on the road in Carolina. Panthers laying 2.5. The total 38.5. Now, the general manager of the Panthers, when they traded away all those players, when they fired their head coach, he said, no, we're still playing for the playoffs. We still want to make the playoffs. Everybody said he was crazy. But look at the numbers now. They're just counting one game back of the Bucs for first place in the NFC South. So, RJ, you don't think the Panthers won't win, but you think the Steelers are a good bet. How?
Yeah, teasing the Steelers up to 8.5 as a second leg of my teaser here, with Baltimore plus 8.5 for both of these AFC North teams like to play in these lower scoring games, low totals in both games. So I think that this is a great way to take advantage of it. The Carolina owner saying that he thinks they can compete for the playoffs. I mean, he knew what we all didn't, that Tampa Bay is awful. And I don't think anybody expected the Buccaneers to be as bad as they've been since that statement was made. So that's the only reason the Carolina's hanging around. But they have played well since going away from Baker at quarterback. I'll give them that. The look ahead here was 2.5 the other way. So it's moved 5 points. And I think that's a combination of the Panthers beating the Seahawks, which, I said last week could happen. I had the Panthers as a play. I believe Larry had Panthers as a play on one of our shows too. I think maybe the Sunday show. It just trended toward the Panthers being able to compete and run the ball against that Seahawks defense. But I don't think the drop off from Kenny Pickett to Trubisky or to Rudolph, if that's what happens with Pickett dealing with a concussion, is that large. And this is an easier defensive matchup for Pittsburgh here. They can lean on the run game again. They couldn't do that last week in that game against Baltimore, but they should be able to take advantage of that here. And Pittsburgh's defense typically not that bad against the run, despite Baltimore doing what they wanted to on the ground last week. Carolina's offense awful on third downs. So now you get into third down with TJ Watt and company pressuring Darnold. You could start seeing some more ghosts again. So check the field there. If you see some ghosts, you're going to know that Sam Darnold's probably seeing them too. I think the line should be pick 'em. So I think it's worth playing Pittsburgh at 2.5, but it's an unavoidable teaser for me. I had to throw it in. Top teaser leg this week for me is Pittsburgh plus 8.5.
All right, you absolutely have to do it. I don't see any scenario that Carolina beats anybody by 8.5. But Mikey, let me come to you because I watched both games. And Carolina was in complete control in Seattle. Sam Darnold looked like a legitimate NFL quarterback. Is it that just a mirage, or what do you think about this week's game?
Yeah, this one's really tough to call. I mean, I think it's fair to make them 2.5, I suppose, on their home field. The teams are essentially equal at this point, considering what's going on the Pittsburgh side. It looked fine against Seattle. However, Seattle, I don't think is very good, especially defensively. I think that team is really starting to rebound back to where we really kind of thought they would be. As far as the game go, RJ's dead on once again, though. I don't see them winning by multiple scores here in this spot. So I like it as a teaser leg on the Steelers side. But overall, not a game that I was overly anxious to bet or watch this week, frankly.
I love when you go, I'm not watching this for one single second. Big Cheesy, I know you're trying to help in the chat. We appreciate it. This show does very, very well, but it takes 2 or 3. A lot of people watch it on demand. So it's okay that they're not here live. Middle of the workday, it's all good. This show does very, very well, but thank you. All right, those are all the 1 o'clock games. Let's move on to the 4 o'clock games. And I'm starting with you here, Mikey, because you have a play in this game. Then, Maestro, I'm coming to you. Cardinals and the Broncos. Now, Russell Wilson kind of woke up before he got knocked out in the second half, and they made it a game against the Kansas City Chiefs. They scored 28 points. You already heard RJ talk about how inept their offense has been. The total, very, very low, 36.5. We know Kyler Murray, it was confirmed today, a torn ACL in all probability, a source says, very, very high. So, Mikey, where are we going in this game?
We're headed to the over in this game here, Coach. Over 36.5. I think it's just a touch too low. I think the number should be 40.5 in the market here. It's possible that it's Colt McCoy versus Brett Rippon in this game. Russell Wilson could play. Either way, I like it. Look, I think both of these offenses are still going to find a little success. I like Jerry Jeudy the way he's playing right now. It's all about him. I like Kendall Hinton. I like when you got some guys in there that are hungry to get a little usage. There's not a ton to play for really on either side now at this point. We see a little lack of focus on the defensive intensity sometimes in these particular situations. We're also playing at altitude, a lot easier to kick longer field goals for certain teams. Just all of these things gets us up over key numbers here. So, as long as this thing doesn't hit 37.5 or higher, 36.5, it's at a very friendly spot to get us an over. So while we don't typically love these offenses, I do love that we have DeAndre Hopkins, Marquise Brown, Rondale Moore should be back, Robbie Anderson, Greg Dortch. We've seen Colt McCoy. He's more than capable of throwing the football. He catches a break. While Denver's decent defensively, he's not going to be facing that New England pass rush here. I like the over in this one as long as you're getting it at 36.5.
I absolutely love it. That brings 20-17 into play. That happens a lot. 20-17. Maestro, let me come to you. Because even though Mikey said neither team has a lot to play for, we watched them play against the Chiefs. It was evident to me they are still playing hard, that they still want to play and do well. A lot of guys potentially playing for their jobs outside of Russell Wilson. So if I was playing a side, I'd play the Broncos minus the 3. What say you?
I agree with you that they played hard and they made that game competitive when it was 27-0. And even had a chance, but laying points with Brett Rippon, that's hard to do. But I agree with you. I mean, the Cardinals, DeAndre Hopkins, that was the most laissez-faire fumble that changed the game. It was 13-all. They had the ball, they were driving, they had a chance to win and still save their season. And he carries the ball like that, scoop and score, game over. Hollywood Brown can't get lined up. That was an early drive that he killed because he was still in motion at the snap. and they don't get the first down. They have to punt. So just, these crazy, careless mistakes that they just continue to make. I feel bad for Colt McCoy having to play behind that offensive line and with guys that are just, not focused right now. So, yeah, the Broncos seem like the side, but laying a full field goal with Brett Rippon and that offense is hard to do.
I am guessing there's a lot of head coaches out there right now that are calling Arizona or calling their agents saying, call Arizona. Even the in-game interview with Cliff Kingsbury about Kyler Murray, I was like, can you at least not act like a robot for 1 second? He's like, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Well, it's tough. It's tough. We get it, Cliff. You lost your starting quarterback. Say something. Say something. All right. Now, speaking of something, the Patriots saved something last night, potentially their playoff hopes. RJ, we're going to start with you. Again, the schedule makers, what are you doing? Patriots, go to Arizona. Patriots now have to go to Vegas the very next week. Raiders are laying one, total 44.5. And RJ, we saw the Raiders once again blow it. Once again, Josh McDaniels saying afterwards, we got to figure out a way to be better. They just don't know how to close out games, but yet they're still the favorite this week against New England. Explain that.
Well, and I think now the Patriots are favored. It opened as pick 'em yesterday, and then the Patriots went out, took care of business, and it's moved to Patriots -1. Demoralizing loss for Vegas, like you're saying, but it's a huge rest advantage. Talk about the schedule makers with New England. Raiders play Thursday night, and then they get to play a Monday Night Football team at home. So I don't know who they tipped off to get that schedule, but good for them. Their defense is good versus the run. Where the New England offense has struggled and is now could be missing several key guys. I believe Damian Harris was doubtful for this week, didn't play, obviously. Ramondre Stevenson suffered an injury in the game. So this could be a Pierre Strong, Kevin Harris, double rookie type game that the Vegas defense gets to go up against. They also have Nate Hobbs back at defensive back. I believe Larry pointed that out last week, that he was a key difference maker, and he actually was for a lot of that game. And then the defense completely fell apart in the second half when Josh McDaniels decided to stop trying for some reason. The New England defense 6th in yards per play, but if you watch them play, they either give up a lot of points or barely any. When they play these bad offenses, they can shut them down and give up 0 or 3 points, but they can also give up 30 points in a game. Vegas offense 6th in yards per play and has a great run game, and New England has had a few duds against the run. So I think Vegas can take advantage of that matchup here. These two coaches obviously know each other as well as coaches can. And I don't know that Matt Patricia offense scares me if I'm backing Patriots as a road favorite at any point. So I think that offense is struggling, even despite winning that game. Running backs hurt. I think Vegas should be favored, even to a line of like -2. So I think there's a lot of value taking the Raiders here. It's just a lean for me. I want to see it go up. If you can get it to 1.5 and then tease the Raiders, I think that's the ideal play. But I'm probably going to be on the Raiders either way.
The crazy thing is, if they only played 45 minutes, Mikey, the Raiders would probably be a top seed this year. They have played really, really good until they don't. Everything RJ just said, I agree with. Everything RJ just said could still happen. They've been playing really good football. But facing the Patriots, it's just a weird team to play against because of their offensive coordinator, because we don't know who they're going to throw the ball to. How are you looking at this game this week?
Yeah, I think it's Raiders or nothing here for me. I make them -2 favorites in this game. There's a lot of injuries mounting on the New England side of the ball. We need a little clarity there. If they lose Ramondre Stevenson for any amount of time, based off what they've got out there right now, it could be real tough sledding there for them going forward. They rely on the defense a ton. The defense is great. They've got an excellent pass rush. However, the Raiders still have pretty good offensive weapons. The severe coaching mismatch, of course. But look, I think that they're the side here on their home field. So I like the Raiders. I think the best advice, like RJ said, it does appear that it may not last long, but we might see a -1.5 here. If you get a 1.5 on the Raiders and you can tease that, get it up to 7.5, that is probably the best look that you're going to find in this game. Otherwise, you take it with the Raiders on the money line here, plus 105. I think it's the better spot for them.
I love that advice. The Raiders are not going to lose by a touchdown, not against this team, not the way they've been playing, not at home. Love that. All right. Now, this next game, we got two best bets in it, from Maestro and from Mikey. So, Maestro, I'm going to start with you because we've already talked about the other two legs of your parlay. This is a very, very important game for both teams. Bengals are laying 3.5 on the road. They're now 9-4. They are surging. They've beaten the Chiefs. They've beaten their nemesis, the Browns. They've beaten Tennessee on the road. They're surging. The Bucs, not so much. They just got clocked by the 49ers. This total sits at 44. They have been a complete under team lately because they just can't score any points. So, Maestro, which side do you like for the last leg of your parlay?
I love the Bengals to win the game. The Bucs are on a trend where the teams that play the Niners the next week are 0-11 straight up. So you can just use that as the starting point. But I'm just so impressed with what the Bengals are doing offensively. They've gotten a lot more versatile where you don't know if they're going to run it or throw it when they line up in shotgun. They're running the ball very effectively from the shotgun, which I think they're going to have success on the ground, even against a good Tampa defense. And, they lost their best corner, Chidobe Awuzie, but this rookie, Cam Taylor-Britt out of Nebraska, he got the game ball yesterday. He broke up a pass in the end zone. And, Jesse Bates and Von Bell, they have two elite safeties. Jesse Bates said this guy is as tough as Joe Burrow. So they love him. And I just think everything is working for this team. Joe Burrow is something like 17-3 against the number in his last 20 starts. And Tom Brady is old.
I think he's really starting to look that way. However, and the one thing I have learned is not to look at everything on the surface, because that's why I was a horrible bettor in my 20s. Mikey, you don't agree with this. Tell me why.
And it's not necessarily that I don't agree with it. I think the Bengals can definitely still win the game. However, I think we're in for a very, very competitive football game here. One of my best bets of the weekend is going to be Tampa plus 3.5. I make them just +1 underdogs, which is saying quite a bit that they're still underdogs to Cincinnati here. But I like them through this key number. I think it's a great spot for them. I don't think that Cincinnati is going to have a ton of success running the football here. I think that changes things. But I really want to talk about the receiving core for Cincinnati. There's a chance that T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd both are out for this game. It's not confirmed, not likely that both are out, but there's a chance that both are out or severely limited in this game. You watched T. Higgins last game. They removed him from the injury report. I believe he played, 1 or 2 snaps. There's a lot going on there to break down. You look at the Cincinnati team, though, these kind of games, they play them very competitive. Look at the game against Tennessee. Tennessee has 0 passing game. They were able to focus and stop Derrick Henry, won that game by less than a field goal, I believe. I think that this is a spot where we have just a very, very competitive game. It is a must win, really, for the Tampa Bay team to really feel good about it. I think it's a little bit of a letdown spot for Cincy. So I can't quite get to laying it with Cincy here. I got to trust the computer on it. I know the head wants to go with Cincy. I know that we think Cincy is great, and I do think they're a really good team. You know how much I love betting on Jamar Chase, but I think we're looking at a field goal game at the absolute most.
All right. Very, very good. And that is the third of 4 o'clock games on Sunday. Last one. And I'm coming to you, Maestro, because you have another best bet in this game. Titans going on the road to Chargers. Chargers only laying a field goal here, total 47. They looked really, really good this past week against the Dolphins, or the Dolphins looked really, really bad. The Titans also have not been playing good football, which leads us to what, Mr. Maestro?
I love the Chargers here, and you can get this under a field goal. I recommend 2.5 -115. That's available at multiple books. I mean, look, Justin Herbert has not had Keenan Allen and Mike Williams on the field for more than about 2 games this year, 2.5 games. When he has those guys and Austin Eckler against this pass funnel defense of Tennessee, which we've seen Tennessee regress to what we thought, Mike Vrabel's an amazing coach. They overachieved all season, and now we're seeing the reality, just like we're seeing with the New York Giants. Both teams got great coaching jobs. They overachieved, but now we're seeing the real team. And I think the Chargers have a great chance to run the table. Their rest of their schedule, it's Colts, Rams, and I can't remember the 4th team they have, but they can easily run the table and finish 11-6. That was a massive win on Sunday night against the Dolphins. I think they know that they've got everything ahead of them. This is a team that could go far if they can stay healthy.
Here is what their schedule looks like, Maestro. This week, home to Tennessee, then they go to Indianapolis, home to the Rams. They share the same stadium. And then they travel to Denver for their final game. All 4 winnable. No doubt winnable. And that would take them to very much, let's see, right now.
11-6.
Yeah, 11-6. So that would absolutely put them into the playoffs if they can run the table. So we will see. Now, RJ, when we talk about this particular game, there's sometimes that we say it's just right there in front of us. It feels like It's right there in front of us.
You guys are talking about the Chargers like they're not the Chargers. If they just win all their remaining games, they're going to be 11. I mean, this is what happened last year when they were week 18 and they were supposed to win that game and they completely tanked against the Raiders. This is who the Chargers are. They never trailed Miami, but why is Herbert throwing 51 passes in that game? I know he's excited to have his receivers healthy, but I think they're doing that because they can't trust the running game. And you can't run on Tennessee, and Tennessee's defense is number 1 on third down, where Miami is 25th. So I think that leads to more stalled drives where Tennessee knows the pass is coming because Chargers aren't comfortable running the ball. I don't know why Miami avoided running the ball against the Chargers with that matchup. That's not going to be a problem here. Tennessee's offense, we know, is going to run the ball with Derrick Henry. Looked like his old self in the first quarter against Jacksonville, then they fell behind. Got away from running the ball for whatever reason. I think if they fall behind here, they're not going to abandon the run in this particular matchup. The line is fair according to my power ratings. I think Tennessee has a matchup advantage. It's down to 2.5, like Larry said, in some spots, so I'm probably not going to play Tennessee. I was hoping to get 3.5. At 3, I'm thinking about Tennessee just because the coaching mismatch, just because the Chargers, as good as they looked last week, they looked just as bad the week before, and they are just a back-and-forth team. As someone who bet them over 9.5 wins, I really hope you guys are right, but I'm just done trusting this team on a week-to-week basis.
I am so frustrated when I watch Staley coach that football team. And I'm a Chiefs fan. I don't even care about being a Chiefs fan. It just drives me nuts how he coaches and his philosophy. He never kicks a field goal. He takes so many points off the board. It's brutal. I will never bet an over with the Chargers ever again. Ever, as long as he's a head coach.
But that gave him, excuse me, Coach, but that gave them a big lift when he went for it on 4th and 1, and Eckler got in there, hammered it in the end zone. That's a play you don't see from the Chargers too often. I think it fired him up. Like, wow, we gained.
They had
the
to
yard
do that.
We needed to
he already
gain
got
on
stopped.
the ground.
Yeah, he already got stopped earlier. That's why they had to do the right play. But that was from the half-yard line. He went for it from the 4th and 4 from the 4. I understand from the half-yard line or the 1-yard line. I get that. But 4 yards, kick the field goal. All right, 2 more games that we got to get to. And then we're getting the hell out of Dodge. Tell all your friends you want to watch this on demand, please. We break down every single game from top to bottom. Sunday night, 8:20 Eastern, a big one in the NFC East. I mean a big one to the point where you've got 7 and 5 on both sides of the ledger. Mikey, let's start with you. Commanders laying 4.5 at home, total 40. Talk to me.
Yeah, this one's tough. It's ticking up to 4.5. I think it's trending the right way. I think that this line should be closer to 5.5. I don't think we see it given the teams involved, the division, the location of the game. I don't see it getting there. But the Commanders, in my opinion, are definitely the better team. As crazy as it sounds with these two offenses, defenses, everything there, I'm still leaning over as long as we're not getting to 41. I like leaving 41 in play. In this particular matchup. I know that this game screams under on the surface. However, I do think that we still see some short fields. We see some turnovers. We see things that still push this game. Again, I think the number should be 41.5 to 42. So I think the only edge remaining here in this spot is going to be a little lean on the over. And like some of these other games, I might even recommend waiting a drive or two, getting this one, if we can find that key number 35.5, 36.5 to keep the 20-17 game in play. That's what I will be looking to do with this game.
And it takes patience, and you've got to be watching the game in order to do that. But again, target the 2 or 3 that like this, put them on your screens, and then do what Mikey just told you to do. Now, RJ, let me come to you because the Commanders, under Taylor Heineke, have been playing pretty good football. The Giants are trending in the other direction. Saquon Barkley did not look healthy, at least to me, on Sunday, getting blown out by the Eagles. The Commanders would be the play if we were just talking about winning the game, but we're not. We're talking about the number at 4.5. What do you think?
Can I play it to tie? They tied 2 weeks ago. Matter of fact, 2020. So that total of 40. I mean, if we get a repeat, it's going to land right on the total. But Washington had a week off, and the Giants were mauled by Philly. That's why you see this line so high. But if this is the same matchup from 2 weeks ago, then maybe it's going to be a close matchup here. Giants just can't stop the run, and Washington's offense is happy to run the ball whenever they can. You say in the Taylor Heineke offense is playing well. They're not like blowing out teams, but that's because they're just happy running the ball, sitting on leads, and then winning close games. But that puts a ceiling on their offense. They're not going to score 30 points in any game. And there's only one game where they've had more than 2 offensive touchdowns since week 2. So you're capped offensively by how many points you're going to get from Washington. And if 23 points is your ceiling, it makes it harder to cover a number where you're laying 4.5. So even though the Giants look like they're cratering, it seems like a field goal game in the division to me. 2 teams that just played to a tie. I would lean toward the Giants plus 4.5.
Okay, very good. All right, we have arrived, ladies and gentlemen, at our final game of the week. And it's a game that, quite frankly, not too many people are going to be watching. Now, the Rams, the Fighting Baker Mayfield, shocked the world as he leads a 98-yard drive. He'd been with the team for less than 2 days, but they're traveling to Lambeau to take on the Green Bay Packers. I thought Joe Buck did a pretty good job of trying to sell this game last night. The Packers are laying 7, total 39.5. Maestro, let's start with you. I don't even know where to go on this. I don't even know if I care on this game, but I know we're going to be watching, and I know that we're going to be doing a show prior to this game. What do you make of this matchup?
I don't have much on this, Coach, yet, but I just think that Baker Mayfield has energized, Sean McVay and that offense, and that his presence is giving them a jolt and kind of a reason to finish the season strong. So, that would be my only angle so far, but right now I'm not getting involved.
Mikey, what say you?
If I had to play it, I would lay the 7 with the Packers. Depending on, it's probably going to be -7 with the Packers. I think the game should be -8. Tough environment on the roads. Packers technically still have a little bit to play for. Aaron Rodgers, it's a layup game for him and one that they can go out and win. That's where I would be. Baker was incredible there. I'm not going to pretend that he was incredible in terms of being a great quarterback. He made a few really good plays. It was just incredible to see it unfold. Let's not forget he still had several penalties called against him the other way on that final drive that allowed them to even get in position to be there. Several mismanagements of the clock that allowed them to be there. If one of those doesn't happen, we're not talking about this really at all, frankly. So it's great that Baker has a job and he gets to go play. Not an easy place to go play in the cold. I'll lay it with the Packers if I have to.
Yeah, he probably won't be there next year, I guess. RJ, I doubt he's going to want to be a backup, but maybe that's who he is at this point. But everything Mikey laid out is true. But how do you see this matchup? A Monday night at Lambeau, both 5-8, 4-9.
Yeah, Baker can be a starter if he's playing in the XFL. That was a great Hollywood ending there for him, and he got his moment, 48 hours with the team, and he goes and gets a win. This is still a broken offense with a bad offensive line, major injuries, skill position players. I know the Green Bay defense has been awful, but this is the easiest matchup they'll have all year. That Rams defense struggled in the first half against Vegas. Vegas went up and down the field on them. Then the Vegas offense stopped trying in the second half for some reason. I guess Josh McDaniels was already looking ahead to facing Bill Belichick. Green Bay is going to be healthier than they've been in a while coming out of the bye. I love fading an indoor team playing in Green Bay in December, now with a new quarterback that's been with the team a week and a half. Green Bay has a great home field advantage, best in the league with my numbers, 3.5 typically. Might shade that a little more in December. So even with Green Bay struggles, this line should be double digits because the Rams are one of the worst teams in the league. Seeing the market move it down to 7 is a huge deal. I would lay the 7 for sure with Green Bay.
All right. Again, that is Monday night, Lambeau Field, one of the great places to see a game, travel to a game, be a part of a game, even if both teams stink. All right. It is that time of the show. Time to take a look at our best bets, brought to you by Caesar Sportsbook and Casino. Let's rip right through them. Maestro, let's start with you. What do you like this week?
I love those Chargers to cover against the Titans, who are just falling apart, and the Chargers finally have their weapons with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen on the field. So I will lay the points with the Chargers. And then a 3-way favorite money line parlay. The Bengals are red hot against the Bucs, who are just, cratering. The Bills to take care of the Dolphins, who have the worst spot this season. And then the Eagles against the defenseless Bears.
Mikey, talk to me.
I'm going with the Bucs here, plus 3.5 on their home field. Letdown spot for Cincinnati. This is the kind of game the Bengals play close. I'm also very concerned about the status of T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. Makes the offense a little more one-dimensional, especially when they can't run against Tampa. And then we're going to the Cardinals and the Broncos, over 36.5. Get this one in before it moves to 37.5. We keep a 20-17 victory alive here. I think we see a competitive game with a little less defensive intensity.
I completely agree. RJ, bring us home.
I have the Seahawks plus 3.5. Tough test for Brock Purdy going on the road, even against what's been a bad defense. I don't think that line should be over 3, so I think we're getting value with Seahawks plus 3.5. I have Falcons Saints over 43. I think Desmond Ridder could be an upgrade for the offense, and I think the Saints have had a run of tough defenses that they've played. Their offense will show better. That number is going to get to 44. I think I have a teaser: Ravens and Steelers both plus 8.5. 2 low scoring totals there, and 2 totals that are around the 37-38 mark. Having points at a premium is huge there. Getting both of those over the full 8 points and making it a 2-score game is great. So Ravens, Steelers, and a teaser.
And that is our Week 15 mega preview brought to you by Caesar Sportsbook and Casino. Now, we like to end every one of our shows asking my experts, my crew, what's the number one thing they're most looking forward to this week in the NFL? Maestro, start us off.
I'm looking forward to the Chargers being the team that we thought before the season. It seems like so long ago, but they were projected to win 10 games or at least over 9.5 by a lot of us here on this show. And that is well within reach when you look at that schedule, starting with the Titans and then getting to play the Rams and the Colts. So I'm just looking forward to the Chargers and all their weapons putting on a show against a very bad Tennessee pass defense.
That's a really good one. M Squared, what about you?
It's got to be Cincinnati and Tampa here. Pretty big game for both sides. Cincinnati's been on a tear recently. Again, I'm worried about their health, though, in this game. Love to see what Tom Brady and Tampa Bay can do here on their home field. I think this is a big spot for them.
RJ, talk to me.
I'm looking forward to a battle of potential playoff teams, not Tennessee Chargers, not Bengals, Bucks. I'm talking about the Lions, Jets. Will the Lions be able to work their offense outdoors with Jared Goff and play one of their toughest matchups all year defensively in this elite Jets unit? If they can do that, the door is open for them to make the playoffs and cash with those of us that laid I believe it was plus 430 before the season to make the playoffs.
And I'm looking forward to the Cowboys and the Jags. Are the Cowboys struggling? 2 weeks in a row, Texans, Jags should be automatic wins. Are the Jags better than what we think? They're trending. Mr. Lawrence is playing really good football. This is a big-time test for a team that is very much still alive in the playoff race in the AFC South. Gentlemen, another good week. But as you know at home, here at the Early Edge, here at SportsLine, we're just getting our week started. We start on Tuesdays. Follow all my guys, the entire crew, as they continue to educate and entertain you throughout the week as we get to Thursday Night Football, 49ers and Seahawks, Saturday 3 games, and then Sunday and Monday. 4 big days this week, and we are here for it. So with that being said, there's only one thing left to do, and I believe you all know what that is. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of these NFL tickets straight to the pay window. For my entire crew, love them all. M Squared, Maestro, the stoic one, RJ White, and Jake the Snake on the ones and the twos. I am the coach. We're here every single day, multiple times a day. We grind so you don't have to at the Early Edge. Good luck.